Welcome to Scriptmas Day 10. It is audit day. So we've been collecting information for the past 10 days on your time and your energy, how they ebb and flow throughout your week. Now we're going to extract some insights from that information. So first, we're going to look at your time audit. Scroll through your tracker and identify the following things. First, you're going to identify your time sucks. What are things that are taking up a huge amount of your time that don't necessarily need to? We are going to try to reduce them as much as we can. We want to cut these down, not necessarily out completely. So if you're looking at your time sucks, look at things that are taking up significant amounts of time that you don't actually care about. If you're spending 3.5 hours a day doom scrolling, which is the average, you can definitely take 3 of those hours and put them towards writing. If you're spending more time during your week watching TV and watching movies rather than writing TV and writing movies, maybe we want to even out that ratio a little bit. So first, you're going to want to find pockets of time within these time sucks. Focus on the ones that you don't actually care about, the things that you're surprised that you spend that much time doing that thing, and you don't actually want to be spending that much time doing that thing. We're going to start there, and then we're going to look towards things that we do like and enjoy and care about, but maybe we just want to even out the ratio of how much time we're spending on that in favor of getting more writing time done during the week. Next, we're going to look for pockets of time where you can multitask. You don't want to multitask things where both the work and whatever else you're doing is going to suffer as a result. We want to multitask with things that are pretty mindless so that you can really focus on your writing. So for example, your commute. Once I got a tablet, I was able to bring my writing with me on my commute to and from work on the subway. When I moved to LA and I was suddenly driving all the time, then I found creative ways to use apps to help me write on my drive. I used apps like Scriptreader Pro to listen to drafts while I was in my car. I listened to audiobooks for research instead of physically reading them. I would ask Siri to make notes for me or send voice memos to myself. Obviously, drive safe, but there are apps that can make this possible. Outside of your commute, you might be able to find pockets of time on your lunch break, coffee breaks, waiting for school pickup, and other places throughout your week. So we've reduced our time sucks. We've found those extra pockets of time with multitasking. The next thing is very important, and it's to find things that we actively want to preserve. In phase 2, you made a list of things that energize you or make you feel creative. These are things that we do not want to cut out of our schedule. We need them, keep them. Preserve time for your family, preserve time for your loved ones, your friends, your pets, for being out in nature, for dancing, for exercise, going to your local cinema twice a week, whatever you want to do. If it's important to you, you should preserve it in your schedule. Okay, now we have our time audit. The next thing is our energy audit. You're going to compare your energy chart with your time audit and figure out where your energy givers and energy drainers are. What are the things that make you feel like a zombie during your day, and what are the things that make you feel excited and creative and focused? I always feel really focused after a workout first thing in the morning, and I always feel like a zombie at 3 p.m. I know that chatting with other writers and creatives is something that always inspires me, and I know that walking my dog is something that drains me of my energy because he's a puppy and he doesn't always listen, but we're working on it. So you've identified activities that are energy givers and energy drainers. Maybe your job is really brain intensive and burns you out by the end of the day. These are all important things to note. So then you're going to generally identify your peak energy hours when you feel most awake and alert and focused, and your zombie hours when are no-go. You will be absolutely useless if you try to do anything at this. Ideally, we're going to try to work with these energy rhythms when we're creating our schedule. This is not going to be 100% successful for everybody, depending on how busy you are and how your job is, but we're going to do our best. So for example, one of my former day jobs was working at a co-working space. It was a survival job that I had that was actually very easy for me to write during because I was just sitting at a desk and making coffee all day. So with a job like that, I could pretty easily map my writing schedule around my energy because I could multitask while I was at work. When I was at the agency, not so much. And that's when we had to make some strategic choices about our time, when we are willing to expand our waking hours in order to get writing done, when we're able to sacrifice some other things that we may like in order to get our writing done, etc. Now that you've reviewed all the data, we're going to make some decisions. First is figuring out our writing cadence. How often do you want to write each week and for how long, ideally? Looking at your schedule and actually how much time you have. If you are a visual person, instead of just writing down these pockets of time, you may want to map this out on a calendar or your Google Calendar if that's helpful to help you visualize exactly how much time you have available to you. But that's not required. You can also just write it down. So now that we have this information, you're going to decide a writing cadence. How often do you want to write each week and for how long? Because everybody's busy, especially if you're juggling day jobs and other things, this may not be a write every day for X number of minutes kind of thing, and it may be more of an average throughout the week. I would like to get a certain number of sessions in throughout the week. I would like to write 3 hours total over the course of the week. Try to figure out what that is for you. So you can choose frequency or time minimum. Then you're going to look at your schedule and you're going to find the ideal days to accomplish this. So for example, if you have large swaths of time available on Mondays and Thursdays, then you're going to want to block your bigger sessions out on those days. If you have shorter periods of time during your workday, then you might want to reserve a handful of those lunch breaks or coffee breaks for writing, but not all of them. The key to making this plan is making sure that it's flexible and it keeps into account that life is going to life. You're going to have days that are really hectic at work. You're going to have days where you feel dead tired when you expected to have energy. We need to be flexible enough to roll with the punches while still having a plan that we can try our best to stick to on a day-to-day basis. So to wrap up our audit, we are going to summarize all of this into a little document that we can use to build our writing plan. First, we'll write down our time insights. You're going to make a list of the top 3 time sucks that you're going to try to reduce. For me, it might be doom scrolling, excessive television watching, and making the decision to swap out maybe 1 or 2 walks for my dog with a friend, my sister, or a dog walker. Next, we're going to list our extra time pockets. So finding places that we can multitask throughout the day. For me, this might be multitasking on my commute instead of listening to a podcast or something. You're also going to make a list of the things that you're preserving because they are helpful to your creative self. For me, this is going to be exercising, time with friends, and going to the theater. So once we have all this information, we can also summarize the potential writing time that we can reclaim in our week. Total that up so that you know how much time you have to work with when we're making our writing plan. You're also going to want to summarize your energy insights, so your peak writing hours, your zombie hours, and the things that really give you energy that you can incorporate into your schedule when you're feeling a little bit more lethargic. So once you figure out all of this, you're going to comment below your writing cadence. You're going to fill in the blanks for this sentence. I commit to writing X times per week for X number of minutes or hours. Hopefully it's clear that doing this process, while arduous, is going to be really helpful to create a writing plan that is actually fitting the reality of your life, rather than setting lofty goals that we're just feasibly not able to meet. So if your goal is write every day, but your threshold is really rock bottom low, it's write every day for a minimum of 5 minutes, great, you could probably carve out 5 minutes. But if you have these really big complicated goals, like write 5 times a week for at least 2 hours, we have to make sure that's reasonable before we set that as our goal. So hopefully this audit will give you the information that you need to clarify these benchmarks for yourself before we move forward. So tomorrow we are actually going to build your writing plan, finally. See you in the next video.